Hello, welcome to Chess Gaja, and we are celebrating 100 Grandmasters, historic event for the India. And here we have the our today's guest, GM Rahul VS. He is the 91st Grandmaster of the India. How do you feel India's achieving 100 Grandmaster milestone, and you are the uh, one of the grandmaster from that.
Yeah, I think it's a really fast growth for India, especially in the last, I think, 4 to 5 years since 2022. Yeah, I've been growth. And for me personally, I feel quite proud and happy about it, mainly because, okay, not just me, okay, I became 91st Grandmaster, but a lot of the Grandmasters that is happening in the recent times, I know them all since childhood, we all been struggling. Some of us have been stuck on international master level for a while. So I've seen them struggle in person, and to see them achieve their goal is like something that is quite personal for me. And it's very nice that we all come together to achieve this milestone together.
Yeah, that's the uh, very nice brief about the. Go back and let's discuss about some your beginning, the start of the journey, uh, your chess career of where it starts and how it goes.
So I started chess when I was around 6 years old, mainly because I was too hyperactive and my parents wanted me to learn to sit in some place for a while. So they joined me at some, it was not even a academy, it's more like a place where kids come to play chess. So I saw it there, but okay, after a while, like I really liked the game because there's so many things going on inside a chessboard. Like usually, we play running around and we do a lot of activities, but inside a chessboard also there were like so many activities going on. So I was more focused into learning that, and soon I picked up interest. And my parents, especially my grandparents, also like they took me to a lot of this weekend tournaments. Back in those times, it was always happening on every weekend. We used to have this huge category tournaments where Saturday, Sunday we used to go play. And I think it took me around 1 year before I got my first prize in those weekend events. So it was a huge achievement back then for me because I was not getting a single prize for like almost a year since I started. And afterwards, I think when I was around 9 years old, probably or 8 years old, I joined Chess Gurukul. And previously, I was studying at King Chess Foundation. But once I joined with Chess Gurukul, I was around 1200 rated at the time. And I met R.B. Ramesh sir and other good coaches there. And they helped me the importance of chess books. And soon my growth started to grow really steady for next 2 3 years. I was jumping to 1800 and 1900 quite easily. And my big jump started when I was around 14. I jumped from around 2000, 2100 to 2300. I made my IM notes. And I got to work with a lot of strong players like Fernanda, Jeremiah, and Valsani. And when I was 14, I also got the opportunity to work with Adiban and etc. And sometimes times they were all like, I think 300 points, probably 400 points higher than me, but they still, we are camps together and that gave me a huge boost. So, in general, I think my journey has been usually helped and guided by a lot of others. So, it's not just my journey, it's a collective journey of us. And when I was 18, I became international master. I was stuck in just before becoming international master. I was stuck for like 1.5 years or 2 years, mainly because I got my norms and I was very close to my IM title, but I had one bad year I was stuck, and we had a lockdowns in India, so I couldn't travel. So like 1.5 years went by, and just after the lockdown, I was able to make my IM title. But after becoming IM, I was 24.78. I was very close to becoming a 25, and I only had one GM. But then again, I quite struggled for 2 years, 3 years time because there was a lot of pressure. Like when I just became a trainer, there was a pressure to become a gym very quick, and I couldn't handle the pressure. So it took me 2 to 3 years to to journey myself to refine my passion for chess and slowly enjoy the process to finally become a GM. And I won this Asian Plus Championship to get a direct title. Yeah, I mean, for me, it always starts with family first because I think my parents and grandparents, especially, they sacrificed a lot. Because when I started chess, we weren't very sound financially, so a lot of them is struggling very long bit for me to even play tournaments. And I think few people who really okay, obviously almost all people I work with are contributed great, but there are few people who it's a very special place in my journey. I think the very first person I would mention is Grandmaster because for me, modern chess, he had guided me as a person. We were together for more than 10 years together. So he has molded me into what kind of person I am being at the moment. And not only that, when I was having some financial troubles, he himself offered to, take classes for free, like for almost 1 or 2 years. Like, and as a chess player, how expensive the coaching is. So it was
Yes.
like really it's great of him to, just voluntarily ask, telling that he would just not take any fees for when I was struggling.
Yeah.
After that, went to Mr. Prasanna, like Mr. Prasanna from Chennai, and with him, he contributed in studying my mindset and way I should approach, the journey itself, not just a game, but also my way of approaching things. Helped me a lot because there was a time when I was stuck. When you're stuck for a while, you lose
Yeah.
motivation and you see chance, but you don't learn much. So I was in that situation 3 years ago, probably, and I had a chance to work with science minister at the time, and the way he was conducting himself during the classes and the way he was bringing interest to the class, I was quite interested to start working again. And after that, there's one more. I have some friends as well, like apart from that. But okay, first I want to talk about my coaches, which is Sam Sundar at the moment. He is a great guy. He's a great friend actually, and I think one thing about him is the way he contributed with me is not just about chess, but okay, so, as in Indian chess, it's getting younger and younger. Like 14-year old, 15-year old, they become grandmaster. So when you are 18 or 19 or 20, and you're not
Yeah.
yet a grandmaster, sometimes you feel like you're already too late or you're just too
Yeah.
old. And when I went to his camp, I was the oldest guy in the entire camp, probably apart from him. And others, okay, we had not much age difference, like 2 years probably, but it still felt very old. But he made sure that I felt very comfortable and I was like in my
Yeah.
zone to improve. I think that is the greatest thing a coach can do to make the student very comfortable and focus them on the learning journey. And apart from that, a lot of my friends actually inspired me, and they also take a part of this achievements that I've done so far. Especially some childhood friends like Arun Chidambaram, Vaishali, and Prag,
Mhm.
and Kartigan Murali. Like these four, like they've been a pillar of support since day one. I remember when back in before I became IM, me and Arvind, when we traveled together for chess classes, he used to say, okay, don't give up. If you even become an IM, like you will get a lot of financial support, so it will be easier for you to play. And I didn't think about the issues. Like he himself comes and tells me and gives me encouragement. And Vaishali is also the same. She always, you know, finds a way to encourage me, even if I don't go and ask them for it. They see, they check on me and all the time, and they give me their advice. And that's something I'm very grateful for.
Yeah. Uh, uh, and you mentioned about some there is uh, the financial issue. There is some about the difficulties you faced, the struggle time you mentioned. There is any moment in that struggle time that you thought about that to give up the chase and go so do something else, or tell me something about that.
In different phases of life, for different thought process, it used to come, especially when I was a probably young teenager or like not late teenager, but middle to young teenager. I used to feel like, probably if I don't play chess, it will be much easier for everyone around me to, live a comfortable life because right
Mm.
now we are doing pretty well financially, but back then it was like very much struggling. And at that time, I felt, chess was the main burden of financial. Like without that, it would be much easier for us to, live a much comfortable life. And as a young child or like around when I was 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I used to feel this a lot. And then when I was around 18 or 19, 20, when I was like struggling, stuck for a while, and I felt like the the journey of like especially when you're about 2400, it's gate 10, so the rating journey is also quite slow compared to in the previous levels. So it's a very long journey and it's more painful one I would say. But there yeah, whenever you face some failures or whenever you're already having some outside troubles like this and your game is also not going that well, like you feel like maybe it's time to give up. But one thing about me is, yeah, I always felt I had this thoughts of giving up, but I always felt I could never give up. Like it's something in me that doesn't let me to give up, or it doesn't feel right to give up. And but there's always a voice in me that feel like it will not easier to give up. But at the same time, just because it's easy doesn't mean it's the correct thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's the great mindset, and to not never give up.
Just it's not like a exam where once the exam finishes, like you're happy about the exam. After that, it's more like a life journey since it always has its up and downs. Like, I mean, if you're gonna ask someone who is like 2700, they'll also say after becoming 2700, they'll have difficulties. So for me, the good moments started, I think, back in 2013 or 2012. Like, I think the first time I won against international master and grandmasters. I was 18 under probably, and I was winning against some 22 under, and I felt that was okay. This is the breakthrough of my career. And after that, especially when I was 14, it had a huge jump. I started winning a lot of grandmasters, and I made my IM now and my first Europe trip, and I increased like 23. I increased to 23 under, and that was a huge jump. So just before and after that is completely different because for me before that I was not. I mean, it's not very conscious. I see chess. I was working on chess, but I was not thinking about okay I have to achieve this, achieve that. I was just like I like chess and keep saying, but after that the chess became more serious and I started putting more time and effort. So I think that was the turning point. But I think each study point would have a very big upside and doesn't mean the struggling ends. Like because after each and every level, we have to struggle a lot to cross the next level. So jumping to 2300 making IM levels was one level for me. Becoming IM was the next level, which I also struggled for like 2 3 years. And from IM to GM again, I had to struggle for 2 3 years to get my GM title. So I feel the struggle is always going to be a part of the journey, but I'm very grateful for the struggle because I learned a lot of myself and about chess. It's a lot of different things, especially in different levels. Because when you're kids, you don't think much. When you grow up, you have lots of different, scheduling and consciousness. And I think in in spite of all of that thing, the major core thing to have is the curiosity to learn. And I seen most very strong players and very strong upcoming players as well. They all have this one trait, which is to always be very curious and to learn. And irrespective of whether they lose or whether they win, they spend same exact number of hours to analyze the games and go through it. Which I see some a little older guys, maybe even grandmasters. Sometimes they don't do that, but the younger generations, especially the ones who's improving much faster, they always show this trait of being very curious about chess and learning about the games. And apart from that, it's usually. During the tournaments, it's mainly because you need to rest a lot. You need to have a very good refresh mind because the previous day, sometimes we have very painful losses, sometimes we have good games, but both of them would equally drain you. Just because you win a game doesn't mean you're not tired. Yeah, and painful losses drain you even more because you're upset and you're emotional after that. So it's very important to have a good sleep and good rest. That is the major thing. And apart from that, what I do is like, yes, during times we all spend at least, okay, nowadays we have like single rounds, yeah, per day. So we will get at least like 4 5 hours for preparation. And easily, sometimes when you're playing a Grandmaster, easily like 3 4 hours would be gone by seeing chess. And apart from that, you have like 2 3 hours to spare, which you make sure you rest. And I think one of the things that is very helpful to do is to always ask yourself what is your mindset before the game, or like what do you want to achieve. Not like I want to win the game or something, but let's say this game I want to play some attacking chess, or this game I want to play something positional. So it's very useful for our mind to be ready or to know what we want. Because a lot of chess players, especially when they are trying to go for a game, they don't what type of person they want to play, or they don't know like what is their opponent's weaknesses or what they prefer today. Because let's say they don't feel confident in the attacking game, but they go and they play some very attacking opening, and then they make mistakes right from the openings. So I think it's very important to know what type of person you want to play. And maybe you feel like it's attacking, maybe you feel like it's just positional, but it's very important just spend some time with yourself to understand how you feel today.
Yeah.
I have to search for the game which I have, but there's one game of mine which is against Metro. It's from 2021. We played the Asian Juniors Championship. So that game was very, thrilling and very. It was very fun a game to play because the position was very crazy. It's where my pawn would be like queening, and Mitrama will give a free rook, but I refuse to take a rook. If I take a rook, position becomes equal. So I remember it was a very fun game. Like if you turn off the engine, like engine would obviously like say
Yeah.
something very concrete and stuff. But if you turn
Yeah.
out the engine, the person is just very crazy to judge and play along. And I remember just after the game, at that time, Shamsunder came as Indian coach. He immediately tweeted about the game in Twitter at that time, now it's X, and where he was like, I think it is mentioned something like it was a resemblance of famous Casper game, but it was like so crazy. Not because I just won the game, but also because the portion was so fun to play with. We don't know who's gonna win, we don't know who's gonna lose, and I'll be attacking on one side, but I'm attacking might be get an attack on the other side, and it was very fun overall, like to play such good games to find some very good
Yeah.
ideas. And apart from that, I also played a quite memorable game against many players. One of the funny moments were like against Granada in petroleum tournament, in the petroleum tournament we played back in 2023. Um, the game is a short clustered event, so it's like 45 minutes each with increments. And I played some opening I prepared previously with some other GM, and okay, the person was quite complicated, but went wrong in few moves, and I think I won in 18 moves or 23 moves or something like that. And the thing is, like, okay, I won very fast, and my teammates they didn't look at my result; they just assumed like I lost. And then after the game, when they saw the result, they were like, "Oh, you won!" So we thought you lost because the game ended so quickly. So yeah, that was I have a few memorable moments like that.
Yeah. You can show any position or anything about that.
Let me just check. Um,
Yeah. Sure.
this is against Mitraba. I'll just quickly share my screen.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I was white here, and here
Yeah.
actually this was one of my first times playing this opening. So this was still a preparation for me. And here, okay, I think black went a slight wrong because white is basically playing a move up in this position. White is supposed to black's supposed to have one extra move here, but black just played a wrong move order. And I got a really nice position after this. And here the correct move is supposed to be queen a4, trying to control this knight. But if in my preparation the knight was on d7 already, so then b4 is the correct move. But here I got confused and I played b4. Position again became equal, but after knight c6, queen a4, knight is on queen d7, knight f5, bishop f2. Later I changed the queens. We took, and now I played g4. So here already I have a really interesting pawn structure where I am having a good control over the center as well as the
Yeah.
king side. And after 97 a4, the idea is to just probably play a5 and have a very dominating structure. So d5 was played, which gave me a very good chance to just play c5, and now I'm clearly dominating the entire queen side. Knight c6, rook b1, rook b8, bishop e1. So now the point is I just want to play b5 and maybe even a5 later to just open up the queen side. So bc5 was played, dc5, sorry, king f7, bishop c3. So I just made sure, there's no d4 ideas. Now I go b5 and my bishop is extremely good at the moment. a6 was played, but rook b2, rook b1, b5. So here, obviously, the engine will have some, deep lines, but here
Yeah.
from human point of view, I just felt white is just simply better, and objective also white is better here. After takes 97. Okay, I want bishop e5, maybe not so accurate, but my point is I wanted, the knight to be little away so that I'm going to play. My idea is to play basically c6 and b6. So knight g6 was played, now bishop d4. I'm already threatening c6, and rook c8 was played, c6, rook b8, rook a1. So I wanted to just make sure that a file is under control, and if knight h4, knight f3 was very interesting, which I actually missed at first. But then I found out, okay, it's not a big issue for me. I just move my bishop, check king f2, g5. I play with k7. I really want to play something like b6, b7, and king g6. Okay, here I think I was quite afraid because if I take something like this, there's knight e5 and knight e2 is going to come. So that will probably just turn around the game for black. So I didn't want to risk anything, so I just played b6, g into f4. And okay, here also I could have just taken EF4, but it felt quite risky because the pawns start flowing and I might give a lot of counterplay. But actually, I could have just taken EF4 and black has nothing much. I played D7, Fe3, King E2. And this was also funny because if I take King E3, I was again afraid Knight E5 is gonna come and probably I'm gonna have some, little difficulties probably because this pawn is always dangerous in end games. Even if a rook comes, suddenly the pawns start running and you're gonna struggle, right? So I played
Yeah.
King E2, D4. So here already it's like black is having this pawn running down on my king. I am having this pawn on the b7. So I play rook a4, try to attack, rook d8, bishop a7. So ideally I wanted to play bishop into b8, rook into b8, and rook a8 so that the rooks are out of the game. And now I don't have to worry about the pawns because my rook is always there in case if I have to give some sacrifice.
Yeah.
So my opponent gave checks, and I just made sure the king is safe. And here, my opponent played rook a8. It was so funny because he realized if the rook is on b8, there's bishop b8 and rook a8, so he played rook a8 just to give up the rook. And the funny part here is, I saw the board for 30 seconds and I played rook b8. I was like, no, I don't want the rook. And that's why this is
Yeah.
always a memorable game for me because this movement was absolutely it was the best move here, and I was happy I just found it in like 30 seconds or something like that. So it was quite funny. And E5 was played. So this was the position on the board where there's a rook hanging and there's these four pawns right in front of the king with a knight, maybe some mating bets. So we don't know who's gonna win. That was the kind of a case that was in the game. But I just calculated a bit, and there's nothing much black could do after. Here I have to find this move bishop b4, which is very important. Otherwise, I think I might even lose. So bishop b4 is very important so that I control this e1 and d2 square especially. So when e2 check comes, I can go king c1. So after this, I don't have much problems. But d3, rook e8, d2 takes rook d6. Now, actually, I could have just played b8, and it was also quite possible to just play, but something like this takes, let's say, your takes. But then I was, kind of skeptical because I didn't want to allow this knight of three, and now lots of ideas like e3, e4, then maybe even e1 will come. So because I can play rook a1 and control the e1 square, but after knight f3, e3, e4, it is still very annoying. Maybe black will always have a chance to make a draw. Yeah. So I didn't want to allow that, so I played rook a6, e3, bishop b4, knight f3, queens, and now rook d2. So here it was like, if I don't give a mate, I'll get better. And okay, I gave some checks here, and the point is, if rook d7, that's going to be c d7, and e1 is not coming at the moment because bishop's on b4. And after the game, I checked the engine, and it says like, black can actually go back king g6, and I have to just come back queen f5 check and go for the other ideas here to win. So
Yeah.
here still queen d7 looks very strong, but it doesn't threaten anything. Like I have to still, play some other moves to win. So it was like a really
Yes.
crazy game if you play without engines during a championship match. Yeah.
Yeah. Really.
The very first advice is, to always focus on learning rather than just the results, because in long term, especially if they want to make a career out of chess, winning one game on is not going to be enough. And if they're focused on only winning, they're not going to, learn new skills. So as I said before, a lot of extras, they even okay, so Brendan and the top players as well, they're always keen on learning more than anything else. So they always want to keep improving their skills and keep on learning new things. So that is the main thing to be focused on, especially for youngsters. As well as my advice would be to spend a lot of time reading chess books. So chess books
Yeah.
is encyclopedia of knowledge. Yeah. So you just spend. I used to spend hours just to read books, and that used to be the part of chess training. And it's a part of chess training that you don't need any support from anyone else. You can just keep reading. And at first, you might not feel any improvement because you're just reading it or it's just working on yourself. But if you keep doing it for over a period of time, I think you're going to see a huge jump in your rating, in your performance, etc. And that is the key thing, not just openings. Like you can focus on openings, but I feel reading books is the main thing to do uh, more than openings.
A lot of player struggles in financial and in chess career about financial things. So, what do you want to tell about how they can uh, manage to learning with the financial things?
One thing is, I learned is that if you're able to perform relatively well, the final struggle is at first would be there, but ultimately, like sometimes nowadays a lot of people are very helpful. They help you out, or sometimes if you start doing well, you will be able to self-sufficient supply. And at first, it's going to be quite struggling, but it's more important, especially if you're dead kids. They should not take pressure on themselves. And if they are adult, yeah, it's very important to balance both, because of course we love chess, but at the same time we cannot, like, we have to be responsible financially as well. So it's as I said, chess is not like a one-time exam; it's a life journey. So you need to be able to be balanced and have a good mindset. That means you need to have a good financial life as well to play good chess. So even if your journey slows down a bit, it's okay. As long as you take necessary steps, and then it'll automatically, help you to go much faster. So maybe you don't play as many turns as before, but you'll be more peaceful when you're playing. You're not pressured about your finance when playing because you're taking the necessary steps. So as an adult, that's what I would suggest. And as a kid, you don't need to worry about that. It's the parents they would have to worry, but I think for kids they just have to focus on learning.
Yeah. Well, the last question.
Yeah,
That what do you want to say to parents of young childs about
yeah. For
how?
parents,
Yeah.
it's like first of all, I know it's very unsettling because you're not sure whether you want to proceed this particular field or like you know the results are uncertain and it's a lot of investment as well. But if the kid is like enjoying and if the kid is learning and if the kid is sincere, that's a major thing. A lot of kids they like to play but they don't like to learn. So, but if the kid is putting genuine efforts by themselves, not because the coaches tell us or the parents tell us that they are genuine about learning about themselves, then it's a very good sign to keep the kids in that particular field. And yeah, besides whether they're going to make it or not, it's an yes, I agree. But apart from that, they're also going to learn a lot of things in life that's not being taught by just studying. So that is also one thing to look at, one aspects that we have to look at it. And if they are very genuine with efforts, they are always going to succeed. Like maybe not at your timeline, but definitely later or sooner they are going to succeed. Yeah. So as long as the kids are genuine, the parents can support them.
Yeah. I think it's the sum up all. And thanks for joining us and having these beautiful insights. So thank you.
Thank you.